and there was a huge roar of approval as the Queen waved to the crowds in front of Buckingham Palace. And for a closer look at the Platinum Jubilee events, we're now reaching out to Rafe Heydel-Mankoo, a royal commentator in London. Rafe, thank you for being with us again.
Hello, Michael. A pleasure.
So we've now come to the end of official Jubilee celebrations. No doubt the parties do continue elsewhere. But I'm wondering, watching these past 4 days, what did you make of them? What stood out for you?
Well, yes, it has been quite a spectacular 4-day weekend. The crowds and the number of street parties far larger than 10 years ago for the Diamond Jubilee and 20 years ago from the Golden Jubilee. We're talking about scenes and a level of activity around the country we haven't seen since 1977. And Britain has changed so much since in those 40-odd years that it's nobody really thought that we would see scenes like that again. But we have, I suppose, in part perhaps because after 2 years of lockdown, people really had a feeling that they needed to let their hair down and party a bit. And of course, the Platinum Jubilee is just as much about celebrating the nation's history, but also celebrating local communities and societies as well. So that's a rather fitting way for the nation to try to come together, and that's one of the purposes of Jubilees. But for me, the highlight really was on the Thursday, June the 2nd, when we had Trooping the Colour, the Queen's official birthday in the UK, when the Queen went out onto the balcony of Buckingham Palace, because she did that 69 years to the day after her coronation in 1953. And that was such an iconic moment. And of course, we have to remember the Queen is not just a 70-year-old monarch, she's a 96-year-old royal. She's been part of British and Canadian life for 96 years. That's almost a century. And we tend to think about eras in terms of centuries. Our collective memory is about a century, and Her Majesty the Queen has somehow been involved or been present on all of those key milestones in British history as well as in Canadian history too. She first went onto that balcony in 1935 for the Silver Jubilee of her grandfather, and 10 years later she was there with Winston Churchill to commemorate and celebrate the end of the war on May the 8th, 1945. Now her sister, her parents and Churchill have all died, and she is the last remaining link with the Second World War, indeed the last remaining world leader to have that link with the Second World War. And that really gives us pause for thought about how involved she has been in our national lives, both here and in Canada.
Absolutely, and not only a link, but also having served in the Second World War. You know, Rafe, I do want to play a small bit, though. It was wonderful to see Trooping the Colour, but I do want to play a bit of that video with Her Majesty and Paddington Bear. As you know, a video that played yesterday during the concert. For those who missed it, take a look.
Perhaps you would like a marmalade sandwich. I always keep one for emergencies.
So do I. I keep mine in here.
Oh.
For later.
So these beautiful tributes aside, I just love that moment. And I'm wondering from your vantage point, how important was it to see this more casual side of the Queen, especially when she herself could not be physically there at yesterday's concert?
That was, I think, another one of the great highlights, and it brought a tear to many an eye of people that I know. It was such a touching moment to see the Queen, you know, doing really an Oscar-worthy performance. I think I was quite impressed at her skill, especially against, you know, a CGI that you didn't see. But yes, in 2012, you will remember, for the opening ceremony of the London Olympics, the Queen met with that great British icon, James Bond, and then she later went out of a helicopter in a parachute, allegedly. So I think they wanted to capture some of that again and pair her with another great British icon, Paddington Bear. And to see the smile, the cheekiness, there was a little twinkle in the Queen's eye, and we finally, after 70 years, we finally got to discover what's in the Queen's handbag, and it's marmalade sandwiches.
Which is good to know when she goes on tour, if she goes on tour again in future. You know, as expected, though, I also want to bring in some other family members here, because as expected, the Jubilee saw the return of both Prince Harry and Meghan to a royal event, the service of Thanksgiving on Friday. And last weekend, you and I spoke about a possible rapprochement. Will we see now a return of Prince Harry to royal duty?
Well, we can't say for certain. We aren't privy to those conversations yet. But it doesn't look quite good if we are simply going to go on body language and the complete lack of acknowledgement that there was between the two brothers at that service of Thanksgiving. Harry and Meghan also arrived to boos from the crowd. I'm not sure whether they were anticipating or expecting that. That may in part account for the fact that they didn't attend the reception after the Thanksgiving service at St Paul's Cathedral. They were going to Guildhall. They didn't go there. They didn't go to the Platinum Party concert that was last night, where we had great acts from Diana Ross to Elton John performing. And they weren't present today at the pageant either, the great parade. And one would have thought if there was going to be a bit of a rapprochement, they might have made an appearance at one of those events.
Now, we did see a lot of the Prince of Wales standing in for his mother, and last night we saw the Cambridges, in fact, singing and dancing to the concert. What does that tell you about the road ahead? More princes than Her Majesty the Queen?
Yes, I think now we've all come to understand how things are going to play out, and it's only inevitable for a lady of the Queen's age with her mobility issues. She's perfectly able to perform all the functions of state, but it's simply the fact that logistically it's hard for her to get around. So the Queen will still be Queen, doing all of the important functions she does, with all the documents she signs, and she'll be receiving ambassadors, whether it be via Zoom or in person at the palace. But when it comes to events and ceremonies that require walking, etc., yes, we're going to see much more of the Prince of Wales, who, after all, has had the longest apprenticeship in history. He's the oldest Prince of Wales, and it's a position that he's more than capable of fulfilling. And, of course, Prince William as well now, learning to become an apprentice by his father's side.
Now, you are Canadian, and much of the celebrations did focus on London and the UK, but Canada, like many of the Commonwealth countries, did not have similar celebrations. How concerned is the monarchy right now about the future and the longevity of the Commonwealth?
Well, actually, you know, I have to say, as a Canadian, that I'm very disappointed with the Canadian government's approach to the Platinum Jubilee, which stands in stark contrast to the approaches taken for the Diamond and Golden Jubilees, or indeed the Silver Jubilee. Australia named an island in Canberra after the Queen this weekend. So other Commonwealth countries have certainly stepped up to the mark to celebrate this unique achievement in our shared Commonwealth history. But, you know, for the first time in history, the federal government has not issued a Jubilee medal. There was a Diamond Jubilee medal, a Golden one, and a Silver Jubilee medal, and indeed a Coronation medal. This is unprecedented. And in fact, as we know, the opposition parties, and in the Senate as well, they asked for this to be reversed. The decision did not happen. And so the provinces have had to step in. And over this weekend, in the last 3 days, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Manitoba, Alberta, Saskatchewan, etc., have all issued their own provincial Platinum Jubilee medals to give to people who have contributed to society, especially all those frontline workers. We think about people that really tirelessly working for COVID during lockdown, the emergency workers. What a wonderful way this would have been, as with previous Jubilees, to acknowledge the hard work of Canadians who volunteer and give of their time and sacrifice all of their energies. Then through this wonderful opportunity of the Jubilee, Justin Trudeau is very keen to have his photo ops with the Queen, it seems, and he's spoken very fondly of her. But when it comes to actually showing tangible work done to promote the monarchy in Canada, or to educate Canadians about the monarchy and celebrate this institution, I'm afraid it's severely lacking.
That aside, Rafe, we have about 30 seconds. I want to ask you what it's meant to you personally to see these past 4 days of celebrations where you are.
I can't tell you how exciting and how wonderful it has been to be on the streets. I've been broadcasting from various places, and the energy that's there, people seem to have been given a little boost. Times are tough. We've got a cost of living crisis here, as in most places, but it's been a wonderful, energizing boost. And then to see the future three kings of Canada and Britain on the balcony today with the Queen, that shows that the monarchy is in good position to go forward.
Rafe, always good to have you in the program. Thank you for this today.
Thank you so much.
That's Royal Commentator Rafe Heydel-Mankoo in London.